Prediction time. Florida State at Miami.
You are Locked On Seminoles, your daily podcast on the Florida State Seminoles. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back into Locked On Seminoles. I am your host, Brian Smith. Thank you for making this your first listen each and every day. I truly appreciate you stopping in to talk Seminoles football with me. Today's show is brought to you by FanDuel. Place your first $5 bet and you'll get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. Prediction time for Florida State at Miami. I don't think it's going to be a shock on who I'm picking. The more important part for this show and really the Florida State football program is the performance. That's why I'm going to break down what I want to see and what then I think I will see throughout this football game. I've spent a lot of time researching these teams, and to be honest with you, I know them pretty well. I think there'll be a few surprises within this football game. So let's get started. I'm going to go offense first for the Noles, and then I will talk about the defense. Number one, I think this is an opportunity for Brock Glenn and potentially Luke Kromenhoek, if he plays as well, to gain a lot of valuable experience. Why? You're talking about a Miami defense that has several players in its front seven that will eventually be paid to play in this thing they call the National Football League. If you have guys like that in front of you, you're going to learn something even if you get your butt kicked. But to maximize, these are the areas that I think are most important. Number one, regardless if it's a blitz or if it's a four-man pressure, a three-man pressure, whatever it is, the ability to stay in the pocket, keep your eyes down the field and make plays is something that never goes away. It is one of the most boring lines, and you see it pretty much happen in every game that you watch on TV that the analyst talks about that. It's because it is prime material. It has to be stated over and over again. When you're not looking down the field, you can't throw the ball to the receivers. Sometimes guys get a little gun shy. They get hit once, they get sacked early, whatever it is, and things fall apart. That's why so many defensive coordinators heat up a young quarterback early in the game, because they want them to start thinking more about what the pressure is instead of the coverage. And once that happens, the ball generally goes the other direction and sacks and turnovers just in general happen. Well, Brock had a horrendous game. I mean, he had 3 turnovers in a row against Duke. You have to find a way to overcome that, or it needs to go to Luke pretty quick. There can't be anything in the same stratosphere with that this week. That's just the way it is. Brock got kind of hosed on a couple of deep balls that he threw because, as usual, Florida State's receivers dropped him. So he may need to get a few more reps. How Brock plays in that first, say, half quarter to quarter is paramount. Florida State's coaches, hard feelings or not, and I doubt this is going to matter, but they shouldn't worry what Brock thinks. If he's playing really bad, if he's struggling with the rush, or if he's being turnover prone, they got to yank him. They've got to find a guy before the end of this season so they know what they need to do with the transfer portal, if anything. It's hard to say what's best, but you got to play them both, and I'd like to see Luke get a few chances, but if he's playing poorly, Luke needs to get a bunch. So that's part of it. Second part, move the pocket, make plays on the run with the quarterbacks, RPO game, sprint outs, different things like that have to be part of this game. They are not going to just sit in the pocket and play look down the field with Florida State's atrocious pass protection and expect to do well against Miami. That's just dumb. Everybody knows it, but I just want to state it for the record. I think that Florida State will have a little more success. This is the second game that Early as well as Otto are at the 2 guard spots. There's going to be more chemistry, just reps. I expect that also to be a scenario where the run game is going to have a few more things. But I've heard Cam Davis is banged up. I don't know if he's playing. I don't care what the coaches have or have not said in press conferences this week. I ignored them straight up. I ignored them because I know these coaches will both lie through their teeth about injuries, so I have no interest. But if they're down to like Tofili, who's going to be the second back? Is it Keziah? Is it going to be Sam Singleton? He had the touchdown last week. He deserves a chance, in my opinion. He is fast. Maybe one of those guys. The question is who can pass protect the best? Because, again, Miami's going to heat up the young quarterbacks. They might blitz at a rate over 50% early in this game. It would not surprise me. So you have to be able to combat that. Also, the points regarding the O-line extend as well. They've got to be able to have some chemistry. Again, I've talked about this for weeks, finding a key running play, and they had a few different ones last week. They exceeded my expectations. First time I've said that this year. Maybe they have something with that in regards to pass protection this week as well. It would be nice if the quarterbacks could sit in the pocket a little bit without worrying about being destroyed. Because the way I look at it, Florida State's O-line this year has been as bad as it gets in major college football. They finally take a little bit of a step forward. Maybe there's something there that gives them an idea of, okay, this is what we did wrong, going over the film. The eye in the sky doesn't lie. And they take a step forward. It's hard to do against Miami's front. This will be, I believe, Ruben Bain's third game back from injury. They've got maybe as good an interior pass rusher in the country. And they have multiple, like Barron, et cetera, on the edge. I'm not sure that's going to go well. And there's also talk about Darius being banged up and whether or not he's going to play. Even if he does, we should expect that Darius Washington is not even remotely healthy. Until otherwise proven, always look at it from a worst-case scenario. That's my experience on this. If he doesn't play, this will be a disaster. All the things I just said, you can throw out the window. Florida State doesn't have another left tackle right now. They don't. Prove me wrong. Luke Simmons, somebody like that can play, but you can't throw somebody like that in at left tackle and expect it to go well. They may have no choice. I don't know, but that's where I'm at with that. Third, running backs. Again, we talked about maybe Sam Singleton plays, maybe Keziah, if there's a situation where Cam Davis does not play, but that is a concern. Regardless, they've got to be ready in the pass protection. And I also think the screen game will be big within. If Florida State's going to have any success, they've got to be able to throw the ball to the backs, whether it's swing routes, checkdowns, and, of course, traditional screens. Florida State's got an athletic offensive line. They just don't have much chemistry. It only takes one guy early on in a screen. If you can get that guy out of the way and you get an athlete like Sam Singleton or somebody like Tofili in the free open area, then he has time to track the next defender one-on-one. Good luck to that guy. They should be able to get some big plays there. Receivers, I'm going to keep this real simple here. Catch the football. For the love of mankind, catch the football. That is the objective. No more ridiculous, straight in your hands drops. It has been pathetic. Catch the football. That is one. Two, it's time to make guys miss. Too good of athletes out there not to make more guys miss. That is across the board. There is not a single player at the wide receiver group I am not talking to here. But the speed and athleticism of that group, it is time to make guys miss. Period. That's all I'm saying on the wide receiver group. They are so frustrating. It's ridiculous. Well, you could throw in they need to catch some bombs, but those are the ones that usually drop. So, but whatever. Overall for the offense, my objective is for them to hit 40%. Do I think they do? Maybe. But if the injuries are there, like if Darius is injured, they'll be lucky to hit 20%. So that's a very fluctuating kind of number based on the health of the squad. Now, here's what I think will happen on offense. I think the first few drives, they'll have at least one drive that's good and get points on the board. But I also think they'll have at least one drive that is absolutely unequivocally obliterated because of mental errors up front. I think they'll be inconsistent on and off all day because that's what they've been the entire 2024 season. They're getting better, not denying that, but until proven otherwise, this unit up front will cost the run game and the pass game. And I also think that Miami will be smart enough to use some mixed coverages. They're not very good in the back end, but if they just play cover 2, cover 3, and rush 4, they're probably going to give Florida State's front problems, which is ridiculous. But again, they haven't proven anything. So I think it'll be inconsistent. They might get one touchdown in the first quarter or something, maybe by the early second quarter. But then I expect Miami's D to settle in. I think the run game will start okay. They might hit a run somewhere. When Miami is or is not blitzing, it's hard to say. They're not the greatest tackling defense. At least they haven't been recently. Like their ability to protect the edge and seal it is pretty bad, especially for Miami's talent level. It doesn't make any sense. Do not be surprised if one of the quarterbacks, one of the running backs, or both, maybe even a reverse to somebody like Ja'Kai, hits a big play. Overall, though, I expect the offense to struggle because I just don't think they have enough chemistry. I'm just hoping the biggest objective for me from this game is that they get better. Coming up next, we're going to talk about the defense, what I expect them to have happen, and some of the things that I think they can do to arguably the nation's best offense. All right. ZBiotics pre-alcohol drink is the world's first genetically engineered probiotic. It was invented by PhD scientists to tackle tough mornings after drinking. Here's how it works. When you drink, alcohol gets converted into a toxic byproduct in the gut. This byproduct, not dehydration, is what's to blame for your rough next day. Pre-alcohol produces an enzyme to break down this byproduct. Just remember to take ZBiotics for your first drink of the night. Drink responsibly and you'll feel better tomorrow. So again, for best results, make it your first drink of the night. Second, pace yourself, hydrate, and get a good night's sleep, and then wake up the next morning feeling refreshed and ready to take on the day. Go to ZBiotics.com/LockedOnCollege to learn more and get 15% off your first order when you use Locked On College at checkout. ZBiotics is backed by a 100% money-back guarantee, so if you're unsatisfied for any reason, they'll refund your money, no questions asked. Remember to head to ZBiotics.com/LockedOnCollege and use code LockedOnCollege for 15% off. Also, this show is brought to you by Prize Picks. If you have not yet, check out Prize Picks. It's a different kind of way to get in on the action because you're picking player stats, not games. 2 to 6 is the norm, and you can do parlays and different things. That's up to you on how you want to do it. But Prize Picks is the best place to get real money sports action with over 10 million members and billions of dollars in award winnings. Prize Picks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all. You pick more or less than at least 2 players for a shot to win up 100 times your cash. Run your game all season long on Prize Picks. All right. Prize Picks is the best way to get action on sports in over 30 states, including California, Florida, Georgia, and Texas. Sign up today and get $50 instantly when you play $5. If you have an idea what you might want to do, well, here's an example. Justin Jefferson over under on 83.5 yards. Maybe Christian McCaffrey over under on 75.5 yards. So download the app today. Use code LockedOnCollege to get $50 off instantly when you play your first $5 lineup. Again, use code LockedOnCollege to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, run your game. The defense for the Florida State Seminoles is not going to have as difficult a time, in my opinion. And the reason I say that isn't because Miami's offense isn't great, because it is. I think it's the best offense in the country, but you're not breaking in a quarterback. There's nothing worse in football than breaking in a new or young quarterback. And in this case, for Florida State, it's both. They have some young players, but they have several veterans they can lean on. So here is how I think they should do it. I'm not saying this is what they'll go with, because this would technically go against Florida State's trends, but it is what it is. Number one, they have to resist the urge not to swallow their pride. They are not going to consistently cover in the back end, prove me wrong, without just playing a 4-man rush. If they're blitzing consistent, I mean, you can blitz a little bit, but if they're blitzing over and over again, Miami will tear them up with screens, short passes, and then the missed tackles and a bomb here or there will cause havoc. I'm not saying they can't do it at all, but I think they need to greatly reduce blitzing, and I also think they need to completely change the back end in terms of a few plays at least, where they show something they haven't shown all year. Florida State is a very traditional, play aggressive, play man defense kind of unit, and that's fine. I don't think they can do that consistently against Miami. If I'm wrong, so be it. That'd be great. I'd love to be wrong on that, but Miami averages 362 yards a game through the air. Man defense alone is a terrible strategy in this game. Secondly, besides mixing the coverages, Florida State has 3 turnovers this year. And one of the reasons, they just haven't got their hands on enough balls and actually caught them, or they've gotten a pick like they did against Duke, and there's a penalty. They got to get at least 1 pick in this game. Just want to throw that out there. Now, I said don't blitz a ton, but that doesn't mean you can't get tackles for loss. That includes the screen game. Florida State's DBs are good. They're strong. They come downhill well. At least 1 or 2 screens need to be blown up. You should be able to get Cam Ward on a few plays near the line of scrimmage or tackles for loss. And then just overall, minimum, the Noles need to get 6 tackles for loss. My concern is that the young players like Cryer, Graham, etc., Hussey, it only takes one or two of those guys to not be in communication in the unit in general, and there's a big play for Miami. I don't want to hear the announcer say, well, as we look back at this play, there was a busted coverage. There was a missed run gap bit. The young players need to be on the same page with the veterans. Now, the defensive front, the down linemen, pretty much are juniors, seniors, fifth-year seniors. Not as worried about that. Cam Riley will play a lot. Blake Nicholson will be back. He could make some errors. Graham could be Cryer, etc. Linebackers iffy. But it's especially the back end. Especially the defensive backs here. They're talented. That's not a question. They just haven't faced anybody with this kind of firepower or anything even close. We don't have a sample size. I mean, what SMU did to Florida State was bad. The communication between the linebackers, DBs in general, was horrendous in that game. Passing guys off, etc. If that happens against Miami, they could drop a 60 burger. And I said that, 60. If you have mental errors against Miami with Horton, Restrepo, George, those guys alone, Ray Joseph, anybody else they throw out there, JoJo Trader, they will all make guys miss on their own. They don't need help. You must be sound with your assignments. And then that leads to the one that Florida State's pretty good at, but I'd still like to see a little bit more, and that's just sound tackling. They've got some guys like Sheen Brown. I'll expect that. Need to see more of it in general from the unit, especially near the line of scrimmage. Any chance you have to get a stuff or a tackle for loss, like on a screen or whatever, you cannot turn guys loose, especially outside that edge, outside the hash. That has a recipe for this score to be really ugly. But that's football. You got to prove it. And finally, be the aggressor. Regardless of the coverage, 4-man rush, they're blitzing, green dog, they're running a stunt. No matter what the score is, no matter the down and distance, Florida State's defense has always been predicated on playing downhill, playing aggressively, and taking no prisoners. That should be the expectation when they play Miami inside a Hard Rock Stadium. They don't have the same personnel they've had in other years, but it's still pretty good. They just haven't had chemistry at all this year. It's shown some signs of life periodically. Can they play consistent against a team that they dislike? Can they play consistent against a team that's going to run a lot of formations in motion, try to make them think? It's a hard challenge because your emotion can get ahead of you and you can get down on yourself if you miss a tackle or if Miami just makes a good play. How mature are you as a defense? I have no idea. Nobody does, not even the Florida State coaches. And here's why I say it. Once again, they have not played a team in the stratosphere of Miami's offense. That's just reality. If you have not watched a complete game of Miami offense, it's hard to put it in perspective. They make plays that have nothing to do with anything other than we're just better than you because the passing is so pinpoint. They give Ward a lot of time, and the receivers in general, plus Elijah Arroyo is really talented. Riley's a good tight end. They have guys that can make plays. It doesn't matter which. They got Lofton, a freshman tight end. They're loaded. Every guy that gets the football from a pass or a run has a chance to play in the NFL. This group, in my opinion, maybe not long-term, but every one of them will at least go to NFL camp that is currently in a rotation right now. It's incredible. You can't make any mental errors. And the worst thing you can do if you don't have a good play is to be focused or not be focused, and then the next play is impacted because of the prior. You do that against Miami again, they'll drop a 60 burger on you. Mario will run it up. I guarantee it because Florida State ran it up on them 2 years ago. It is what it is. You have to be ready to take that every single play like they're trying to murder you. I'm curious to see how Florida State's defensive players handle that because they'll have more success in the offense. But I also think the offense is going to hang them out to dry with one or two really dumb turnovers. There may be a pick six. The score could get ugly early. How do you focus and play when you're down and the game looks like it's out of hand? And I expect it to be out of hand by halftime. I do. There's still ways to get better, though. And if you don't, that's on you. When we come back, I'm going to give my final score prediction for Florida State at Miami. NFL fans, you can start the season with a big return on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. So when you get a hunch in the middle of a football game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. You'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. I do not expect this game to be close for more than a quarter and a half. And if it got out of hand by the end of the first quarter, it would not shock me. Here's why. I am very concerned, as I mentioned a moment ago, that the defense is going to get down on itself and possibly just ticked off at how poorly the offense plays. If the offense does not perform well and or score in the first quarter, I think this game will get out of hand before halftime. Definitively, like 20-plus points. 24-3 at half, something like that is kind of where I'm at, in that range. I think the second half will be a little less, but not a whole lot. My final score prediction is Miami winning this one going away, 45-10. And I just think that Florida State will, until otherwise proven, this will be the pattern. They will shoot itself in the foot, and they're playing against a team that's going to make plays too. I think Miami will be up big at half. And I just don't think Florida State's mentality and consistency is there to do anything to thwart it. Prove me wrong, but I got, again, the Canes winning 45-10. Thank you very much for making Locked On Seminoles your first listen each and every day. Truly appreciate you stopping and talk Noles football with me. I hope to see you again on Saturday. I'll have a little more then too. I will also have a live show after the game. We'll talk Noles and Canes on Saturday evening, so be ready for that. Take care. I'll see you soon.